Welcome to Our Hen House. This is Jasmine Singer.
This is Marianne Sullivan.
And we're so happy you're joining us this week. Marianne will be speaking with Deb Olin Unferth, whose latest novel, Barn 8, is not only amazing and incredibly well reviewed, but it's all about rescuing chickens. A lot of chickens, I hear, and you would not stop talking about it. Yeah, you loved it.
It's so good. It's like a caper book. It's like adventurous. It's clever. It's funny. It's heart-wrenching. It's so good. Everybody go read it.
Well, I think after your interview with Deb, we will.
I also managed to catch up with Deb for the bonus segment. We'll be hearing a little bit more of my conversation with her. And as always, if you're a Flock member, you'll get that link to the bonus segment in your email on the Tuesday after this podcast goes up. You can always find it on the Flock Facebook group. And if you're not a member of the Flock and you can afford it, you can join for $10 a month at ourhenhouse.org/donate. Also, as a special thank you to our Flock community, we are doing these Flock Friday Zoom calls. They're lots of fun. They're at 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific, and then you can figure out the whole rest of the world based on that.
Yeah.
And actually, we do get people from all over the world, even when it's a small group. It's really cool. Multiple continents represented. And we discuss some of the topics we're struggling with or we want to know more about. So if you're a member of the Flock, check out the Flock Facebook group for updates or write to us at info@ourhenhouse.org.
So this was a busy week. We presented at the Main Street Vegan Academy, which is Victoria Moran's incredible academy. And this was our first time doing it on Zoom. And I don't know what it was like for her, but from my perspective, it was kind of amazing. Like it was so many more people than she usually is able to get. And it was like people from all over the world. What did you think?
Yeah, I felt the same way. I know she was very... I don't know whether nervous is the right word or hesitant about transferring to a virtual academy, but she did a great job. Really, really impressive. And it was a really interesting group. People, Zoom, you always worry whether people will be able to speak up or ask questions. But, we did manage to pull that off, I think. And I think everybody felt heard and it was great.
We presented on Animal Rights 101 and Animal Law 101. And, it's always hard to know like who knows what and how to balance talking about the issues of factory farming with the fact that like these people are already vegan. So we don't really want to go into too much detail. So what we like to do is talk about like one sort of exploitative aspect of factory farming species by species and then offset that with some interesting fact or anecdote or personal story about the particular animal we're talking about. So if it's a pig, we might talk about gestation crates for a moment and then just talk about like Esther, the Wonder Pig, and how wonderful she is. So it's a good way of kind of balancing the bad with the good. And I also do recommend it for anybody who is struggling with the world right now, that like to kind of offset when you're doing something bad or when you're reading an article and it's getting you down, whether it's about animal rights or any of the other many things that are affecting our world today, that you offset it with something good, like a cartoon or like a nice article or Barn 8 or something like that.
You're very chipper today, full of good advice. I could use some. I need a little cheering up myself.
I think I'm trying to compensate for that by just tap dancing around you while like with jazz hands, Anyway,
put on your happy face.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's funny that you should say that because Randy Rainbow has a new video out and that's what it was
I've
too.
Seen it. Yeah.
That maybe that was subconscious.
I love Randy Rainbow.
Oh my God.
You don't think he'd be willing to be vegan, do you? Because that would make him perfect.
Pretty much. Yeah, that would.
And if you're not familiar with Randy Rainbow, he does brilliant satirical songs based on Broadway hits about our current governmental trials and tribulations. Mm-hmm. And he's hilarious and really, really, really talented. This has nothing to do with animals. This is just an aside.
Last week on the podcast, we had Dr. Neil Bernard. Hopefully, if you're in the Flock, you had a chance to listen to that bonus content as well, because it was so good. He is just such a cool, interesting, brilliant person. And I was lucky enough to be on the PCRM podcast this past week, hosted by Chuck Carroll. It's called The Exam Room. And
is it as good as our podcast?
Well, no, but it's a close second.
Almost?
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking. Just
they go up
checking.
every day. You know, I always boast that we go up every week.
Oh my God! Seriously?
Yeah.
Every day?
Every day at noon Eastern. It's live, and so it's live and recorded, and so it's video and audio. So the audio will be available on the podcast if anyone's interested in listening to it. But there is also a video component. It broadcasts both on YouTube and on Facebook Live, and we talked about my first book, Always Too Much and Never Enough, which is not the same as Too Much and Never Enough, written by Donald Trump's niece, Mary.
Which may or may not come out. This may be out of date by the time this airs, but I just saw that the court is holding up publication.
Oh, that's disgusting. Okay. Well,
also
anyway,
nothing to do with animals.
Nothing. But my book does. And I talked a bit about that and about food. And then we parlayed into speaking about my forthcoming book coming out later this year, The Veg News Guide to Being a Fabulous Vegan. We talked about our hen house and about Kinder Beauty and Veg News.
Nobody's going to have to listen now. You've just told them everything that you said.
No, I'm just giving you the bullet points. Obviously, as we were picking it apart, it was...
What was it like doing it on video? That's weird. I would have to get dressed and put makeup on. I don't know.
I did have to do that. Well, I didn't have to do that. I chose to do that. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of like what my best friend Erica and I talk about, because we worked from home before everyone else had to work from home, and we were fine. And then everyone else came along with their Zoom meetings and their more Zoom meetings and more Zoom meetings. And Eric and I are like, what happened to before when we just got to work from home and we could wear our pajamas?
Yeah, no, I don't have to do all that kind of meetings. And I don't know how meetings are a problem. They just eat up your life.
Yeah, totally. I actually have this one. It's funny you should say. I have this one consultancy and we're dealing with a small issue. And the person I was talking to said, should we get everyone on the phone, a meeting? Can we meet about it? And I was like, we can, but I think this is resolvable in a few emails. Seriously. Oh, the other thing, sorry, I'm just venting. But the other thing is that
all this has nothing to do with
No, it does. But I'm getting confused by the amount of different systems of organization all of these various projects I work on use. For one, it's Airtable, and for one, it's Google Docs, and for one, it's Asana, and for one, it's Slack.
I've always had that problem with teaching because, different universities have different platforms, and the platforms they're pretty complex and elaborate, and they never use the same ones. And I'm teaching at two separate schools. I get them so confused.
It's very confusing.
Yeah, I totally sympathize. We should all be speaking the same language.
Well, and it's I don't have a place where I'm okay, at this place we use Airtable. It's all kind of in my head, and so I feel like a lot of the reason I have anxiety is because I feel like I need to think about all this stuff all the time, or I'll lose the thread. If I stop thinking about that one email that needs to be replied to, if I don't think about it constantly, then I'll lose it. And it'll go away.
We're getting a little too deep into your neurosis.
Okay. So aside from listening to the PCRM podcast, which I hope you do, both the episode I was on as well as just in general, it's a great podcast. I hope you catch a copy or pick up a copy of the latest issue of Veg News magazine, because I talked about this a few months ago when I interviewed him, but my interview with Joaquin Phoenix is out. And
oh, really? Who is that again?
He does some quirky theater. He's B actor, that's kind of how I began my quarantine. So it's funny. It was with the first week or so, Joaquin and I got on the phone and for this interview, and we both were like, what is happening and what do we do with it and how do we do it? We had no idea. And so anyway, super
now we're
fun.
all old hands at sitting home and going on Zoom and
right.
But not talking to Joaquin. That's still a pretty special day, and I'm excited to read this interview because I like him an awful lot.
Yeah, you will like him even more.
He's on my list of favorite people so far.
Am I on that?
You made it, Joaquin. You made it.
Did I make it?
Marianne's list of favorite people. That depends on the day.
I guess that's accurate. Okay. Also, this
and you
week,
also had you also like this Jasmine. you had another thing come out. Like, what are you doing over there?
I don't know. All right. I mentioned to you, like within the last couple of weeks, I mentioned to everybody that our hen house has joined forces with Sentient Media and with Encompass, and we are collaborating on an essay collection called Encompass Essays, Pursuing Racial Justice in Farmed Animal Advocacy. And it's so exciting to finally announce that it's here. The essay collection has started to come out to you.
And guess who's the first essay?
Well, me.
Jasmine.
But
Jasmine.
That's because I wrote the introduction, because I'm editing the project. And you can read it on Sentient Media's website, and it is called... Well, it's called Self-Discovery and the Pursuit of Racial Equity in Animal Advocacy, introducing the Encompass Essays. And the Encompass Essays are an exploration from farmed animal protection advocates such as myself and a variety, over maybe about a dozen other truly incredible thinkers and doers who work in farmed animal advocacy and are talking about how they have been impacted by racism within farmed animal protection and in their lives in general, as well as white farmed animal protection advocates who want to step up myself included, DEI work. So that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how we're going to do it. So it's not like what I think is different from this essay collection from some of the other pieces I've read out in the interwebs is that this actually points to specific issues that we have identified in our personal worldview as well as in our advocacy, and exactly what we're going to do about it. So I hope that people go to Sentient Media's website and check it out, because over the next several months, we're going to be publishing 2 pieces a month, and you're going to expect to read essays that will examine such questions like, I used to think being non-racist was the goal, and now I realize I need to be anti-racist. And we live in a white supremacy culture. Here's how the animal protection space upholds that same theme. And it's taken me many years, but I'm finally building my racial literacy. Here's how I plan to plug this into my work in the farmed animal protection movement. So check it out on Sentient Media.
It all sounds very, very timely. I'm very impressed that you've gotten this out at such an important moment, and I'm sure a lot of people will be wanting to jump into those essays as they start coming out.
I hope
Very
so.
exciting work. I did one thing this week.
What was it?
There's a new animal law podcast, and was published this week. So check that out.
Was this the one that we had no lead time on? You recorded it one day and we published it the next.
Yeah. Yes, it was very timely. I mean, people probably think that we do that all the time, but actually we usually record things ahead of time because it takes time to get them processed and whatever. But this was right down to the wire, and it was with Bruce Wagman, who has been an animal law attorney for a long time. And it was about this crazy situation with the Animal Welfare Act, which is of course, a federal law in the United States that covers very few animals, but it does cover millions of animals, but compared to how many animals that we do things to, it excludes most of them, like farm animals. And it does cover this very small subsection of birds, which includes birds in zoos and birds in entertainment and birds in the pet wholesale trade. And so it covers them. And for 15 years, the USDA has just ignored them and has not written any regulations about them, has not enforced any regulations about them. And they keep saying they're going to. For 15 years, they have said, yeah, we're right about to put them out. We're right about to do that. We're going to do that any moment now. 15 years. And so Bruce sued them and he won. And that's pretty cool.
Wow.
He talks about that case on the latest episode. And it is for lawyers, but I do know a lot of lawyers who listen to the Animal Law podcast and seem to enjoy it. So if you're not listening to it, did I say the opposite?
Yeah, but I do agree. I love the Animal Law podcast, and I think you do a really remarkable job. Like, one thing I've always loved about your brain is that you can take very complex theories and make them very accessible for just the layperson. So that is reflected in the podcast, and you do interview some of the greatest thinkers and change makers in animal law. So that's cool.
Thank you. Check it out if you haven't.
It is the 4th of July weekend, which is super weird. Just, I don't feel like being 4th of July-ish at all. And it's also, I'm quarantining still. And I mean, where I live in West Hollywood, the cases for COVID-19 are just going up, 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 up. It's getting very bad out here. So it's yet another reason
Yeah,
that
California is a disaster. Really a shock. How bad it's gotten so quickly when you were on a good trajectory.
I was really actually appreciating, though, Veg News had this cool newsletter that came out that was basically how to quarantine and celebrate the 4th of July if you want to. And it was like, obviously, it's all vegan because it's Veg News. But they talked about like how to beat the heat with these vegan brews. I love that. Vegan beer. I've been going to Golden Road, which is a brewery in LA. I think they also have one in Portland. And they have been doing curbside pickup. So I've been picking up some beer there, and they say vegan on the label for the vegan ones. So I love,
really nice.
It's a fun little outing. And you could also pick up some vegan ice cream from Besties. Obviously, I don't know if you know, I shop at Besties, a vegan grocery store here in Los Angeles. So I plan on getting
Are you aware that there are some people who listen to this podcast who do not live in Los Angeles, so they can't go there?
Well, but in general, you could get ice cream, and you could make a ultimate veggie burger, and you could, you could have a social distance friendly celebration in your backyard if you want, or you could just stay inside with your dog if they're really scared of the firecrackers, as so many dogs and cats are right now, because there's so many firecrackers everywhere. It's like, I have three, mine are one of them is terrified terrified from the. I have a friend who moved into a hotel in a different neighborhood. We know someone who moved into a hotel because of how bad it was for her dog.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't experienced them where I am because I don't live in the city, but I've heard it's just a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and going on in a lot of different places. I know it's happening in New York a lot, but many other cities as well. These really huge fireworks,
right?
And nobody seems to know where they all came from.
I just want to stay in. Just full stop. And like, it's too scary out there. But I did venture out last week, though. I saw some friends hung out in their backyard, and they live in Riverside, and they asked for us to pick up some Plant Power fast food on the way. So I wanted to mention Plant Power fast food because it was like...
So how do you do this? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, mention Plant Power, and then I'll ask you my question.
Okay. Yeah, so Plant Power fast food, they have locations in Ocean Beach and Encitas, in Redlands, in San Diego, and Long Beach, and Riverside, and in Fountain Valley. And it is just like a Burger King, but it's all vegan. And so there was this very, very long drive-through line, which I'm not complaining about. In fact, on the contrary, there were all of these disgusting, oppressive fast food restaurants on the same street, and none of them had anyone waiting. And Plant Power fast food was, like totally full of people waiting to go in, and you could just get your standard fast food grub, and it was totally vegan. And then I went to hang out there. What was your question? How to do it, like, safely?
How do you socialize? I'm just asking for your particular practices.
Yeah, I mean,
because you're eating, so you can't stay masked the whole time unless that would be so disgusting. Like,
no, until
move your mask away and then stuff the food behind it, because I know you are extremely cautious.
I'm very cautious. So until now, all I've done to hang out with people are social distant walks in my neighborhood. So it just so happens that the people who I hung out with had to come to West Hollywood, or they actually all lived near me. So if you're geographically near me, you're probably gonna just become my friend now anyway, because that's mostly what I'm doing is social distance walks. They'll come with me to walk the dogs at night. So we'll just walk on quieter streets, and one person is usually walking in the road and the other on the sidewalk. So we're maintaining 6 feet.
And do you wear your mask?
Yeah, and of course we wear our masks. I mean, I never go outside without wearing it. And so, but the other day, obviously, we went into the backyard of our friends Danielle and Alicia, and we were on the opposite side of the backyard. So we were way more than 6 feet from each other. So that's why we could take the masks off when we were eating. We were probably 15 feet from each other when we were eating. And then anytime we had to go closer to one another, we put the mask back on. And when we were done eating, we put the mask back on. We brought our own drinks, so we weren't using any of their...
I'm picturing you in this huge backyard, like screaming across... One in each corner, like screaming.
Yeah.
Or calling each other on the phone.
You know, that no, but you're making me think of back before COVID here in West Hollywood. We have a restaurant called Pura Vita, which is a vegan Italian restaurant. That's one of my favorite places on earth. And Colleen from Veg News was taking me out for my birthday. It was my last birthday that passed. And so me and like four of us went to Pura Vita, and they were like, we have the best seat for you. We have the best table for you since it's your birthday. And they put us in the back, and it was like this giant table, and it was totally dark in the restaurant. We couldn't see the menu, and it was so loud, and we couldn't hear anything. We literally did text each other. It was like we couldn't see anything or say anything, but then it's
sounds like a lot of fun.
Actually, it's your dream. You don't have to you just eat.
No,
you just eat
don't.
pizza.
If I didn't have to do the texting, that's not true. I like people. I mean,
I know you do. I'm sorry.
I don't like big social events, that sort of thing. But
no, I know.
I
shouldn't
don't
have said
like
it.
all people, but occasionally I like to have a little chit chat.
I know
go out
you.
to dinner
I
with
know.
people. I'm not a freak. Damn it.
I know that is. I know. I'm sorry. So let's transition into talking about Our Hen House supports vegan businesses. If you have a business that is vegan and you need a little bit of support right now, go to ourhenhouse.org/vegan businesses, and we'll make an announcement about your vegan business, or do it for a vegan business that you patronize so that we can learn about it. We're also always going to be focusing as on a Black-owned vegan business. And today I wanted to talk about Compton Vegan, which, I'm sorry, this is a LA heavy episode, but
seriously,
Compton Vegan is a restaurant. Well, last week we talked about a restaurant. It was in DC. So Compton Vegan, if people want to hear about a restaurant in their area, they should fill out the form. So Compton Vegan is a restaurant in Compton in Los Angeles, and it offers buffalo chicken mac and Jack and Mac and barbecue jackfruit ribs and fried chicken plate and gumbo and
why do we always do this part of the podcast
when hungry?
I'm really hungry?
Because we always record right before you eat dinner. So
it's very unfair.
I know.
And it's in LA. I mean, it's not like even if I did go out and get takeout, I couldn't.
Well, you could follow them on Instagram and drool over them. It's Compton Vegan on Instagram. And I was reading this article that Veg Out LA wrote about it, and it's just cool because they talk about how they're a plant-based menu full of soul food and traditional Latin dishes, and they have opened up. They have opened up here in LA, so they're a new business, and I hope people check it out.
Oh God, I just feel so sorry for businesses that haven't, that just opened before this all happened, and then they had to close down, and
I know. It's
so hard.
It's so hard.
Hard. Yeah, definitely go buy stuff at your local vegan restaurant.
Yeah,
I know this is obvious,
or buy a gift certificate and use it later, or buy a gift certificate and maybe use it later. I don't know. Just send them money. I'm trying to do that as much as I can, but we all have to do it. So anyway, I'm excited about your interview with Deb Olin Unferth.
Super excited for people to hear it, but I'm even more excited for people to read the book.
Yes. In fact, Deb is the author of 6 books, including, as you mentioned, most recently the novel Barn 8, which grew out of research she did on the U.S. egg industry. Her essays and fiction have appeared in Harper's and the New York Times, the Paris Review, Vice, McSweeney's, Granta. She has received a Guggenheim Fellowship. 3, I'm laughing because I just want to be her when I grow up. 3 pushcart prizes, and she was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. She is an associate professor at the University of Texas in Austin, and also runs the Penn City Writers, a creative writing program for incarcerated writers in South Texas. Marianne's interview with Deb Olin Unferth is right after this. The Our Hen House podcast is brought to you partly through the Barnard Medical Center. The Barnard Medical Center combines medical care with the latest advances in prevention and nutrition to help create a healthcare plan designed just for you. Use the telehealth services to receive medical care from the comfort and safety of your own home. Telehealth appointments are currently available for residents of California and New York, Washington, D.C., Virginia, Maryland, Missouri, Massachusetts, Arizona, and Colorado. To set up your first appointment, call 202-527-7500 or create an account at the patient portal at pcrm.org/barnard-medical-center/telemedicine. That was complicated, so I'm going to say it again. pcrm.org/barnard-medical-center-telemedicine. Whether you want a wellness checkup, have a minor medical problem, or need to address something more serious, they are here to help. The Barnard Medical Center's clinicians and dietitians are available via telehealth to treat and prevent diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, and other chronic conditions. Their team of board-certified physicians, nurse practitioners, and registered dietitians provide state-of-the-art medical care and provide practical tips and tools for improving anyone's lifestyle. Take control of your health today and call them at 202-527-7500. The Barnard Medical Center was established by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, a nonprofit organization founded in 1985 that promotes preventative medicine, especially good nutrition, conducts clinical research studies, and promotes higher standards in research. You can download the free 21-day vegan Kickstart app to utilize meal plans, recipes, and cooking demonstrations from nutrition experts. You can find whatever you want to download your apps like Google Play by looking for 21-day vegan Kickstart. And don't forget, pcrm.org/barnard-medical-center/telemedicine. Welcome to our hen house, Deb.
Thank you so much. It's fantastic to be here.
Well, I am so excited about this interview because I just read your book in preparation for this interview. I wish I had read it the second it came out because I totally love this book. And I am not just saying that because I'm interviewing you. This book, is like it just spoke to me. I laughed, I cried. I don't cry. I'm not a crier. This is really, you have really written something phenomenal here. And I just, for those of who haven't read the book, I'm sure some people have and some people haven't. Can you just start off by giving us a brief glimpse of what it is and what it is about and how you think about it?
Sure. Well, first, thank you so much. I really appreciate those nice words. So it is a book about two auditors for the U.S. egg industry who go rogue and decide to steal 1 million chickens off of an industry farm. And the idea is to empty an entire industry farm of chickens and try to figure out how to quote unquote free them.
There's so much in there. Both the characters on the side of the animals, the investigators, are very complex, but it's also about the chickens. I mean, that's the thing that moved me the most. And it's incredibly difficult to write about animals in a way that brings them to life and kind of rides that line between over-projecting, over-anthropomorphism and, just observing them and not trying to get into their heads at all. And you don't do this a lot. You briefly bring an animal to life, a particular chicken. And for much of the book, you're not talking or even having your characters talk about animals, but the book really is about chickens. So how did you set out to do this? Like, did you really think a lot about how to bring these animals to life without overdoing it?
I thought a lot about it. This book is the culmination of many years of thought on my part. I became a vegan in 2008. And I started this book in, I think it was 2012 or 2011. And I had written many books. I'd written, four books before that. And I wrote and published 2 additional books during the writing of this. And none of them were about animals. But just when I became a vegan and as I just sort of began learning about so much of the various animal industries and the abuses of animals, I just thought, I have to write something. And how am I going to do it? And who am I going to do it about? Like, which animals? And I just didn't know what I was going to do. And I thought, I have to, when someone becomes a vegan, of course, as you know, they become very passionate. And I kept thinking, I've got to write nonfiction. I have to expose But I thought, I don't know if I'm the best person to do that. Like, that's not my strength. That's not what I've been doing. I'm not a journalist. How can I do this? And so I just got this image in my mind at some point of all of these chickens leaving a barn. At that point, it was just one barn. And it was just, I think I was reading some article about cages, and that image just kept coming into my head, and it seemed so simple and so beautiful. And kind of like if you're in a big traffic jam and you're thinking to yourself, why don't the people at the front just go a little faster? It was this sort of thing, like, why don't we just let them out? It's just so dismal in those places. And then I started thinking, what if I just wrote that? Like, what if I just created that image? And then anyone who read the book would just have this image in their minds of a million chickens leaving a farm and spreading out over the United States. My image was the United States. And that was how it started.
One of the ways that I feel like you managed to bring the animals to life is you talk about humans who care about animals. And we kind of get to draw our own conclusions as to why they care about animals. I just think that's incredibly effective because it's easier for us to imagine what another human is thinking. But you also do talk about the chickens kind of frequently in a kind of fantasy way. Anyway, it all works. It very seldom works. It's really hard to make this work. You also play with time a lot. I don't know whether that has anything to do with this particular book or whether it's just something you like, but there's a lot of flashbacks and also a lot of flash forwards and some alternate realities, the way things would have gone if that had happened or would have. I think it's incredibly effective because it keeps me engaged, but it also